Coach Claire back with some quick and easy food prep tips and tricks. Today we're actually going to make a real recipe, batch cooking burritos. And this is actually going to be super easy, and I stole the recipe from a fellow Food for Life instructor. She posted it online. And so I'm just going to cut it in half so I don't have to roll quite as many burritos on video. And also just kind of talk about some different changes you can make to it depending on what you like and what you have in your kitchen. So most people like burritos. If you don't like a certain component of it, then you can always switch it out with a different vegetable or starch or whatever. But what we're going to start with is beans. We're going with the Mexican kind of Southwest feel. But I'm going to talk about it later. It's really easy to switch this up to maybe more of an Indian theme or whatever kind of flavors that you prefer. So we're going to start with, I have black beans. I did drain these and rinse them. If you have some that are seasoned that you like, you can use the juice. You'll see that there is liquid in this, so you just have to kind of balance it out. And we will talk about how you can thicken them up if you go a little too crazy with the liquid. I'm going to dump the whole can in here. Like I said, the original recipe was double this, but I think this will be enough to be going on with. It includes refried beans in a can. Now, if you want to make your own refried beans, go for it. These are organic, they're vegetarian, so they're good enough for me. I don't have to go mash my own, but really it's just giving you more of kind of a thick, seasoned option rather than just adding more beans. So this is going to kind of thicken it up a little bit. Again, you can make your own refried beans. You can use the kind that you like. Obviously, the less oil and additives, the better. I sent my daughter to the market and she got me these fancy ones, so I said, okay, we're going for it. And they smell really good. They've got some nice seasoning in them. So if you get things that you already like the seasoning on, you don't have to really add too much yourself. So I've got whole beans, refried beans, and then a can of, I have petite diced tomatoes. I like the little pieces. You could even use crushed, but you'd want to drain out some of the juice. You'll see I drained this just because I'm not sure how much liquid I'm going to need. I might be adding that back in again. In it goes, boom, another can down. And so I'm going to kind of just loosely mix this, and then I'm going to add my vegetables, and you can pretty much put in whatever you like. What I have today, and you see it's a little mushy because we're going to also add, a grain, which is rice, and my favorite that I'm going to introduce you to next. I'm putting in roasted, well, not roasted, these are fresh red peppers, but you can get them in the can too or in a jar that are roasted, and that way you don't have to worry about having a fresh one. I had half a one sitting in my fridge, so I just chopped it up and I'm throwing it in. I love scallions. I'm going to throw those in. They're so much easier to chop than a regular onion. If you're planning to microwave these, the onion is going to be sharp. It's not going to really cook, but if you're going to throw them in the oven, then you might get a little bit of cook on those onions. So it's up to you. You could put some red onions, white onions, whatever. I do like scallions. I don't think the original recipe even had onions in it. And I'm gonna add a little green. It's not a lot, just a little bit. I had some spinach sitting around. I chopped it up. It's gonna cook down just enough. And what I like is if I cook these off, these vegetables are going to still have a little bit of crunch, a little bit of freshness in them. They're just not going to be all cooked and mushy as if I had sauteed them first. So this makes it easy, plus they're going to give a little fresh flavor to the whole dish. So you see it's beautiful, lots of color, and we do need some starch in here. So we're going to add grains. The recipe calls for rice, which if it's in my house and I don't just have cooked rice sitting around, I'm just going to microwave a bag. This is like a steamed fresh one that has some vegetables in it already. So I am going to use some of this, but I'm also going to take the opportunity to use one of my favorite grains, which is bulgur. Anyone who's talked to me before hears me sing the praises of bulgur. It's a cracked wheat. It's already been cooked, partially cooked, and then dried and cracked. So it's whole. It's not highly processed, but it cooks, it reconstitutes really quickly. My trick is when I take the bulgur from the bag, this is just some in a jar that I have left over, I put it 2 to 1 in a Tupperware or a bowl in the refrigerator with water or stock or whatever you want to mix it with. You could even use plant milk if you're going to use it for like a breakfast item. But what it does, it just absorbs the water. You can cook it just by boiling water over the top. It takes like 10 minutes to absorb. But I had this sitting in my fridge. So this is just half a cup. What I like, you can maybe see, it has kind of a grainy, sort of a ground beefy texture. So it's chewy, but soft. And so it gives you that same kind of feel that ground beef would. Obviously it doesn't have the fat content, it's not the same flavor, but there's gonna be plenty of flavor in here. So I have a little bit of bulgur, which I had already made. If you don't have it made, it takes 10 minutes. Boiling water, you're done. And then the rest, I'm gonna use this rice. So I put in half rice and half bulgur, and you can go whatever, I mean, you can put more starches, you can put more vegetables, as long as the end product is kind of burrito-y, right? You don't want it to be watery and make your burritos mushy, but you don't want it to be too dry so that there's no delicious, unctuous flavor in there. So you see how pretty it is, and it smells like it has a ton of like seasoning already, but I am gonna throw in some corn, which is gonna give it a little sweet pop. The original recipe was double and it had like a whole bag. I say just put in as much as you need. This is frozen and it's still frozen because I'm gonna freeze these, so no need to cook it, right? That's about half the bag. I'm gonna throw in salsa. I'm gonna put in 1 cup to start, whichever kind you like. And if you don't have salsa, you could throw in more tomatoes. If you don't have that, don't worry, don't stress. It's gonna taste good just as long as you put your seasoning in. And before I mix it together, I'm gonna add a little more cumin, which was in those refried beans, because I like it, and chili powder. That's gonna give it that kind of Tex-Mex flavor. And I believe the original recipe had quite a bit in there. I'm gonna put, this is a half a tablespoon. This is a lot of mix. I'm gonna put a full tablespoon in. And I'm not adding any salt. I think there's enough with the refried beans, the salsa. It's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna add more salt, but I am gonna put some nutritional yeast in. This is kind of a cheesy, it's not cheesy, savory kind of umami seasoning. If you've seen it, you can get it in Publix and Winn-Dixie, any store, Walmart, they're gonna have it. There's a few different brands, but it's very low in sodium and it has a kind of very rich, savory flavor. So if you're making plant-based foods or you're staying away from dairy, it can be really helpful in giving that kind of richness that cheese would. It's not gonna be cheese, so like, don't start messaging me like, this doesn't taste like cheese. Yes, I know, but it gives that same sort of like fullness of flavor and a little bit of that rich kind of back taste. All right, so I do have the cumin in. I've got some rice. I had another chili powder here just to show you whatever kind you like. This has lime in it and my family doesn't like that. They're crazy, so I'm gonna make these for my family too. I'm gonna make them happy. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of hot sauce because my salsa was just mild and my family likes, you know, this brand. It's not too spicy. It's just gonna give it a little more flavor. I'm not putting a ton in. They can always dip it if they want. And we're gonna mix, and that is totally it. Now, what I'm gonna talk about now is how can you make this recipe different, right? So basically you want something starchy that's gonna kind of hold it together. You want something that's flavorful, like has a pop, and you want some vegetables and seasoning. So if, say I wanted to make like kind of a Indian samosa-y type burrito, I have some in my freezer that I bought at Publix and they're expensive and they've got some extra processed things in them. I'm probably not the best choice. I would put maybe potatoes, some peas, chickpeas instead of the black beans. If I needed something to kind of hold it together, I might even throw a little like, I don't know, hummus or something in there just to kind of like bind it a little bit. And the potatoes are gonna act as a really good binder. So there's lots of ways, and then I put ginger and some garlic and what else? Maybe cardamom, garam masala seasoning. Now this feels a little loose to me, like it's kind of wet, which I don't think is necessarily bad. Full disclaimer, I've never made these before, so we're gonna find out. But it feels a little wet. So what I'm gonna do, because I wanna make sure that my burritos don't get leaky and kind of mushy when I'm storing them, is I'm gonna add an extra binder. Now, I might not have needed that, right? Or say I had thrown in the can with all this juice, I definitely would have needed something. So here's my options, and this is where I'm gonna riff a little. You could put in something like oats, especially if you have these like instant oats. They're tiny, they're, you know, literally they're just gonna absorb the moisture while it's in there. So I'm gonna actually do that because I'm standing right here and they're just gonna give it a little extra, like pull it together. The other thing I can use, which I use a lot, is instant mashed potatoes. These are just dried potatoes, dehydrated potatoes. They don't have butter or anything in them. There's some preservatives, obviously, but it's just dehydrated potato flakes. those work great. They just kind of like help to absorb, same like using potato starch or, you know, potato flour or something, but that's more of a little more whole, right? But I don't have to actually cook the potato, which makes a big difference. So I'm throwing a little bit of these oats in, and I can already feel that it's not quite as soft, right? The other option would be I could add more rice. Rice definitely dries out in the freezer, so if you throw more rice in there, it's gonna absorb that liquid no problem once you freeze it. But I think this looks pretty good. It smells divine. I wish we had smell-o-vision because this just smells so good with the salsa and everything in it. It looks great. You could put whatever you want in it. You could add jalapenos. I don't know, what else do you put in? Whatever you want to stick in here that sounds good. Peas, carrots, I don't care. Now, we're gonna roll one quick, and that's it, we're done, because I'm gonna make them. I probably am gonna eat one because it's dinner time. But I'm also gonna freeze some, so next week during lunch I can grab one and microwave it, or maybe throw it in the oven if I have time. So I just grabbed some, these are actually, again, my daughter's choice. She grabbed them at the market. I did tell her, I usually use corn tortillas because they have no added, the ones I buy have like no added oil, they're very low in sodium, they're like the cleanest tortilla I can buy, but they are crumbly because they don't have the fat content. So for wrapping, I was like, you know, try to get me a healthy one, but that's got a little fat content. So she got me these. You see they're kind of pliable, right, even though they're whole grain, and they're gonna kind of hold together. So let's see. I'm gonna use a spoon, and I am famous for overstuffing. So let's see what happens. I put 2 spoons in here. I feel like that's gonna be a crazy lot, but I'm putting even a little more. This is the time when I eat plant-based. I try to get my family to eat as plant-based as I can, but some people want to have some kind of animal protein with their food. This is the time when you could like split it up, right? If you had grilled chicken or, you know, something like that, you could add that to, you know, some people's, and then you can still have yours separate. Because a lot of people ask me all the time, like, what do I do? My whole family's not on the same page. It's hard to keep everybody happy. So there are ways that you can push the vegetables, get people to eat more of those whole plant foods, and still honor their choices, right? So I'm going both sides in over, see, I overstuffed. But because I'm freezing it, I can just like wrap it. It's a little mushy mush, but I'm not too worried. Boom, boom. Now this one, because there's different ways you can stuff, right? This one, I'm gonna go over. I did go a little heavy that time. And you could even put, if you have collard leaves that are kind of pretty, you could put one in there too that would sort of layer on the bottom. Unfortunately, I didn't pick any, but now this one I'm gonna make more sushi style. See how I'm like pulling it in and then I'm gonna roll the edges? But see, now the edges aren't gonna hold, but it's prettier. So you can choose your best way, and having the foil to wrap over it really helps. If you use some parchment paper, then you can stick it in the microwave easier. This way, if you're gonna microwave it, you're gonna have to unwrap it first, but it should be pretty solid if it's frozen. All right, next, last one more. And I know I said that I was gonna freeze some of these, but I have a feeling I'm throwing them all in the oven because I haven't planned dinner yet. All right, there's another burrito ready to go. Worst case scenario, if you microwave it or throw it in the oven, everything in here is already cooked, so it's not like you have to bake it. But if you put it in the oven, you're gonna get a little more crispness. It's gonna be a little more like home cooking, not instant. What if it comes out and it's a mess? Stick it in a bowl and eat it with a fork and knife. It'll be fine, right? It's just like black bean chili, but you know, in a wrap. Anyway, that's our quick batch cooking prep for tonight. I'm gonna be eating some now, and hopefully there'll be enough left for me to, yeah, I gotta roll a few more, eat for the rest of the week. Thanks for joining us, Coach Claire with your weekly tips and tricks for food prep.